Yoo-hoo, running crew, welcome to Dancing is Forbidden. I am Ronnie, lifelong fan of and one-time voice on Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and on this podcast, we are watching through and talking about every Aqua Teen episode, one episode at a time. And the episode we are watching through and talking about this week is Season 6, Episode 6, Time Machine.
Tell me, were there giant cockroaches?
Huge, man. Big ones.
Big ones?
Big as your face.
What?
Mountains.
Wait, a race of large-breasted female cockroaches?
Yeah, and free chairs, too, so step off.
In this episode, Frylock makes a time machine that he and Shake use to compete for ruler of Dimension Boob. I don't think that's the best explanation of this episode, but that's what's listed everywhere as the tag for this one. Joining us today on the podcast, we have Time Machine's editor, Dave Hughes. Let me tell you, I was so excited to get Dave on the podcast here because his IMDb credits basically read like a list of my favorite TV shows. Now, I wasn't familiar with Dave before looking into him for the podcast here because this is his first time working on Aqua Teen. So this is our first time coming across Dave. But let me tell you, he worked on shows like Beavis and Butt-Head back in the 90s, Celebrity Deathmatch. He then went on to join Adult Swim and work on Space Ghost Coast to Coast, as you can see here, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, a bunch of other Adult Swim shows, and he even worked on my newest favorite Adult Swim show, Haha You Clowns. Dave is the executive producer of that show. Dave also runs the Adult Swim Smalls program, so Dave is a rare guest on the podcast here in 2026 in that he still works at Adult Swim. He's still over there doing the thing, making the stuff that we love, and I was so stoked to have him on the podcast and talk about all of these things. I'm going to be upfront about this. Time Machine, it's a good episode of Aqua Teen. I really like this episode, but there's not a whole lot to talk about here. We just have as Dave will say, the characters acting like the characters. Shake and Frylock just going back and forth, kind of playing chicken about whether or not the time machine works. And this is fun to watch, but there's not a whole lot here that I really could think of to talk about other than, yeah, so then Shake says that. Yeah, then Frylock says that. You know, I didn't want the podcast to be that. So I kind of treat this like an interview with Dave as well. We talk about working at MTV Animation in the 90s, Nickelodeon in the 2000s, Adult Swim in the 2010s and the 2020s now. Dave also created Off the Air. And so we get into that a bit. We talk about, I had to talk to him about Haha You Clowns because I love that show. It's so good. You got to check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It just came out a couple months ago. So I'm so thankful to Dave for coming on the podcast here because otherwise I didn't know how I would approach this episode without it putting you to sleep. So I wanted to let you know that up front. Certainly more episodes this season. I'm very excited to cover that. I have a lot to talk about for those future episodes. I mean, Dave, he's had such a fascinating career. And again, he's like one of the last 3 people at Adult Swim, so it was such an honor to get him on the show, and one of the nicest guys ever. So before we go talk to Dave, I've been using all of the money that listeners of the show have given me over the years to buy my own time machine, okay? I felt left out watching this episode. I wanted a time machine like Frylock and Master Shake, so I bought one, and I'm going to hop in it now. I'm going to head back to when this episode of Aqua Teen debuted. It's May 3rd, 2009. Join me in the time machine. Let's go see what was going on.
Check it out. Check it out, y'all. Check it out. Check it out.
Hey, really quickly, let me explain to you what's happening because this is the first time that this is happening on the podcast. So, you remember those pop culture deep dives I used to do? Well, we stopped doing them here in season 6 just because I retooled the show. Well, I'm bringing them back for supporters of Dancing is Forbidden. And the reason for that is not to disclude people who can't afford to support the podcast or what have you. But it kind of came about because I was doing a King of the Hill podcast called Yep with my buddy Rob. We decided to end that show, but we still wanted to keep making something together. After batting some ideas around back and forth, I was like, you know what? Why don't you just join me on Dancing is Forbidden to do the pop culture segment? Because ultimately we were like, let's do a pop culture podcast. But it was like, I don't want to start a new podcast though. So this just made sense to make something with Rob, who I really love talking to and making stuff with, without that pressure of it being a standalone show. Now, the reason it is supporters only is because this is a great way for me to give supporters of this show regular content for supporting the show. That's very important to me to be able to do. Supporters didn't get a whole lot last year while I was doing Yep, and I feel bad about that. And so this just seemed like a two birds, one stone kind of thing. Another reason is because I like to play music during those segments, and Spotify has been removing some episodes of Dancing is Forbidden from their platform because I play music, so it didn't make sense to continue to play music like that and risk getting these episodes removed. If you're listening on Spotify and if you can't find a deep dive of a certain episode I did, it's because they removed it, so go listen somewhere else. What supporters are getting right now is about an hour this week of Rob and I going through the film, the music, and the Adult Swim lineup of the week that Time Machine debuted. We're talking about who ferged harder than Fergie ferged. We're getting to the bottom of that. We're talking about my favorite new superhero, Wolverine. I mean, he's not new, but new to me. I found out he's short, so I like that, so I like him now. And I was the most wrong I've ever been on a podcast, and I'm still feeling the shame and humiliation of that. And I didn't edit it out because I have goddamn morals. So if you want to hear my embarrassment and all that other stuff, dancingisforbidden.com/support. Otherwise, let's go talk to Dave Hughes about Time Machine.
Coming up next, Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
It has a special place in my heart because it was the first Aqua Teen I did. But on rewatching, I was like, yeah, it's pretty straightforward, kind of classic Aqua Teen episode. It's just the characters being the characters, essentially, and then another sort of duo, Matt and Dave duo in the Cockroaches. But
you had been in Adult Swim for about 5 years by the time that you finally got to work on Aqua Teen. I mean, you had done other Matt and Dave shows like Perfect Hair Forever, Squidbillies, 12-Ounce Mouse. Was doing Aqua Teen something that you would have wanted to do? Yeah,
for sure. It was the flagship or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it felt like the natural sort of successor to Space Ghost. All the other shows are great. Perfect Hair I love, even though it's kind of like we only did 6 basically, so it's smaller than the rest. And Squids was great. Everything, I liked everything. But yeah, Aqua Teen for sure was like, oh, those guys, they do Aqua Teen over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. You did a few Aqua Teens after this, but as far as you could remember, this was your first one, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was. I was trying to dig up like an old projects list, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, I was busy on other stuff, so. But like you said, I worked on Squids, I worked on Mouse, so I knew Dave and Matt separately, but hadn't worked on the big ship.
Gotcha. Well, here we are on your maiden voyage of Aqua Teen Hunger Force Time Machine, which made its debut May 3rd, 2009. The cast on this one, we have Dana Snyder as Master Shake, Dave Willis as Meatwad Carl and a cockroach monster, Carrie Means as Frylock, and then 2 guest stars here. We have Sean Coleman as the Exterminator at the end of the episode. Anyone listening in who checked out my recent episode on Have Yourself a Meaty Little Christmas, you'll know Sean as the producer who I talked to on that one. We also have the amazing voice of Matt Malero as another cockroach. Like you said, Dave, we have this classic Matt and Dave monster duo here. I don't suppose you would remember if they just recorded scratch or if the idea was for them to always voice these monsters.
I don't remember. I don't remember for real. I'm sure. Yeah, they just. I don't know. It's sort of surprising to me that they didn't go for other voices because they'd done a couple duos before. But the booth was right down the hall, and I'm sure they just jumped in there and did the scratch, and it worked. And then you had to ship the episode. It's that kind of flow. But I can't totally remember if there was talk of casting somebody else.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. Of course, this episode edited by yourself, Dave Hughes, as well as John Breston here. To jump into the episode, we open in on Frylock doing some welding in his bedroom. He's rigging a control panel to some tricked out porta potty. We'll pull back to see the door of the porta potty is replaced with plywood and the word time machine is spray painted on it. We also see Meatwad there, who has lots of questions about all of this for Frylock.
You sure are working hard, ain't you? Boy, that's neat. Teddy, what you making?
It's a pod that transfers streaming matter across the temporal plane.
So, what do it do?
This whole intro, it plays out rather slowly. There's lots of silence, and you get some real sense of Space Ghost Coast to Coast DNA in this. So I'm kind of curious for you jumping in to edit something like that. I suppose you already worked on Space Ghost, so you were used to that flow of those pauses and that long drawn out intro.
Yeah. I will say on rewatching it for this pod, I was like, ooh, I would have tightened that. Like my temptation now would have been to pull that a little tighter, because the very beginning, the pauses. I mean, that was a little bit of a thing. Yeah, Space Ghost for sure was known for, and then it was sort of in the air around Adult Swim at the time. Mouse had some of the same. Perfect Hair even had some of the same. But yeah, it's funny listening to it this much later. I'm like, I might have tucked it up a little bit.
Sure, but I guess it just adds to the element of the fact that Meatwad is annoying Frylock here. That's kind of where this all leads to. Meatwad's questioning goes on for a while. I only played a short snippet of it. Frylock gets annoyed, yells at Meatwad. This causes Meatwad to get upset and insist that he indeed knows what a time machine is. It's like his favorite machine, a karaoke machine. Meatwad asks if it can play the safety dance when Master Shake bursts into the room. He's got Meatwad covered.
You can fight if you want to. You can fight out while you're behind. You can fight real cool and make your butt true with the gas that's inside of you. Hey, you can fight. You can fight. Everybody look at your butt. Fight.
It's a safety for, well, it's a safety for.
That's real mature shit.
Thank you very much.
This is Shake doing his own rendition of the 1982 hit The Safety Dance by Men Without Hats. Dave, were you involved with the cutting of that song at all, or were you probably just handed the finished track there?
My memory is that Dana might have done that wild, and then we just laid it over the track. I had nothing to do with getting the rights or whatever that took, but
right.
Yeah, I thought he might have just done it wild in the booth.
That sounds like something he would have done, just maybe even off script, just safety dance, and then just sing it,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I tried to open the project, which would have helped me know, but it's so far gone. It's gone. Yeah. I did find an early animatic. Mm-hmm. Well, not even early. It's probably the final animatic we handed off. But
okay.
If you want to see that, I can send it along after.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to watch that and kind of maybe I can make some notes on how it evolved from then till the.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, I figured shocking. It. Yeah. Phil Sampson sent me one for an earlier episode before, and it was pretty close. But it's fun for me to see those little details that changed.
Yeah. The time machine actually is much slicker in the animatic, which is a funny change to go to a sort of busted time machine. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, Shake runs up to the time machine. He keys in 8008. Anybody who's had a calculator knows all about that. That'll look like boob on the calculator. And then he disappears in the time machine. His destination seems grim.
Hey, what's this knob do on this thing that I don't know what it does?
No, Shake.
Yes, Frylock. Boom!
Damn it, that's 3 years of my life right there down the drain.
Where'd Shake go?
The year 8008. The planet is a shriveled raisin where no life exists, save a race of giant irradiated cockroaches who roam the cracked earth in total darkness, searching for a past they could never understand.
Wow, that sucks.
While Frylock is giving his monologue there, we see some spooky visuals with cockroaches crawling on the screen, silhouettes of these cockroach monsters. We're on some alien planet. There's two suns. While Shake is jumping in the time machine. Dave, what do you say we jump in our own time machine? What if we head back to the 1990s here?
Oh.
And see what was going on with you? Because I couldn't help but notice you did a lot on Beavis and Butt-Head. You did editing, writing. I even saw some additional voice work that you did.
Yeah.
What was it like getting to cut your teeth on that show? Like, were you aware of Beavis and Butt-Head when you got to work on it?
Yeah, I was aware. I mean, I'm a child of MTV, for sure. So, yeah, I was aware, and it was a dream. I mean, it was a super young crew, so just like the energy of the studio was something great, and the success of the show was kind of still when the monoculture existed, so it was just massive, like cover Rolling Stone kind of stuff. Yeah, it was fantastic. I started as a tape runner, which is not a very glorious, like literally running videotape, audio tape around New York to wherever it needed to go. And then I just jumped in head first and did everything I could get my hands on. It was fantastic.
Right. And then I was sad to see that you stopped working on the show because it ended, is what it seems like. You were credited on the last episode of the 97 run.
I would gladly give back all the money just to see Beavis and Butt-Head one more time.
Okay, McDicker. Give us some money.
What?
Hey, buddy, where the hell are the dead people?
I'll just go ahead and take that.
So you're supposed to be dead.
Happening.
I'll kill you.
Do you remember learning that the show was ending?
No, I don't actually. I mean, there was a lot of build up to the movie, and the movie kind of took over the production. And so after the movie felt like, I think Deathmatch had kind of started at around the time that the Beavis movie ended. So there was like this sense of things were just continuing. They just slid over there for a while. No, I actually don't remember like an announcement like we aren't making more of these or any of that, which is weird because I was there through, the early 2000s. But yeah, Daria was going. There were lots of pilots going. There was tons of other stuff to jump around to.
And this is a topic that I kind of reconnected with through researching your work, which is the fact of like how influential MTV was for this kind of adult alternative animation, that it's easy to forget because now it's easy to just to be like, yeah, MTV used to have music, but it also used to have really groundbreaking animation. I mean, I know after Beavis and Butt-Head, you went on to work on, was it called Cartoon Sushi? Was like kind of like the evolution of liquid television. And it's like there's so many Cartoon Network creators who kind of started there before going to Cartoon Network. Yeah,
no, MTV was kind of everything. It like, for sure the music was the driver, especially in the early days, but animation was always a part of it. Even the early IDs were influential on me personally, and I think kind of on a generation of people, just like where is this coming from? I need to get there. It's just it had that feeling about it.
Right.
Yeah, MTV, huge. It's funny. So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 32.
Okay. All right. So
I wasn't really watching Celebrity Deathmatch when it was airing, but when I was a little kid, very much, I would check out those VHS tapes from the rental store and be so excited to watch Celebrity Deathmatch because for anyone who wasn't aware, it was like claymation of celebrities like fighting each other in these incredibly gruesome ways.
Pain! Horrible pain! Like listening to Pearl Jam's Vitology!
Are you gonna stop using my voice, you cheap wannabe?
Never!
Fine, then I'll come in and get it!
Eddie Vedder's attempting to rip out Scott Stapp's larynx with his bare hands. And Stapp bites Vedder's hand clean off.
That's gonna leave a bruise.
Can you tell me what working on that show was like?
So I'll give you a little A-B. Beavis was great, but like only kind of key art came out of there. So there were artists, but just kind of a handful drawing still poses for the animation to be done overseas. So it was like a little bit of a stripped down crew, even though still a pretty decent crew. But Deathmatch, we kind of took over this whole floor of a building, and like every little closet was stuffed with an animator. stop motion animation, which also then like puppets and sets and everything.
Physical things.
So fun. Yeah, so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was super fun. I mean, bizarre, like, I think we were on the 31st floor of a building in Times Square. So, like, not where you'd expect this, you get off the elevator and it's like puppets and sets and crazy people, but pretty fun. I used to think I wanted to be an animator, but I could never draw. I could never draw. So stop motion was an early thing I tried to just figure out animation anyway. So it was nice to, even though I didn't animate on Deathmatch at all, it was nice to be around that production. It was, pretty cool. And then that's where I met Matt Harrigan, who...
I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah, that's the segue, yeah.
I knew that he worked on that because I know that Dave Willis wrote on Celebrity Deathmatch a little bit. Dave, he found the process a little bit restricting because, you kind of had to follow a certain format with the show.
It was a hyper-formatted show, yeah. It was almost weird. Like, even as an editor, it was sort of like... Well, especially compared to William Street stuff, it was... limiting because you're dealing with final animation. You can make trims, you can speed things up, but it's not quite as creative,
right?
As the William Street stuff. From an editor's standpoint, I'm not dissing the show, but
absolutely, and it's not that show specifically. It's most shows are not as creatively free as the Adult Swim world is. But let's jump back in to see what Shake is up to here. The time machine appears inside Carl's living room. Despite Frylock saying it would take Shake to some dark dimension, we as the viewer immediately see that dispelled, right? Like, as the viewer, we're never led to believe that there's any danger with this, at least at this point in the episode. Shake doesn't spend much time at Carl's. He knocks Carl out with Carl's football helmet lamp. He loads Carl's chair into the time machine and then goes back to the Aqua Teen house with his loot. Shake will lay back in his new chair and field Frylock's questions with complete and utter BS.
Shake, you're back! Yes, I am back from the boob dimension, and there was much to see. And many chairs were made available to me free of charge upon my arrival. But I tire from my journey. You'll excuse me?
No. Wait. Tell me, was it total darkness?
Yeah, I guess.
Did you bring back a sample, a plant, a flower, something?
Uh-huh. Sure.
What? Sure?
Whatever.
What the hell do you mean, sure, man? What does that mean? Tell me, were there giant cockroaches?
Huge, man. Big ones.
Big ones?
Big as your face.
What?
Mountains.
So like you said, up top, it's the characters being the characters. That's a lot of what we're going to get this episode is this game of kind of chicken, as we'll see eventually Frylock gets pulled into this too. At this point, Shake is done answering questions, and Frylock notices the time machine is no longer set to 8008, but instead 7734, which is hell upside down on a calculator. I used to put 7734 in all my usernames as a kid. Like, when you're 10 years old, that's like the coolest, most hardcore thing in the world.
Yeah, I think you can get what else? There's like Boobless.
Yeah, Boobless.
Yeah. That's about it. That's all I got. Hell, Boobless.
There's only a few, but they're all pretty classic, so you can get a lot of mileage out of those, like, three different...
Right up Shake's alley. I just feel like that's Shake being very Shake. Like, the other episode that I worked on was Hands on a Hard Body, which is super Shake, and just like Dana performing.
in the Aqua Teen, it's a hamburger.
Oh, right. Sorry. Whoops. Yeah. Hands on a hamburger. That's right. But yeah, it's very Shake-oriented, just kind of like him being up to his usual stuff. And Dana was so good in all those roles.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll get into this in a little bit, where I'm noticing you edited on these kind of structurally weird episodes, but we'll get more into that. Yeah, Frylock does notice the time machine now seems to be changed from 8008 to 7734.
I'm tired and I'm ready for TV.
Hey, wait a minute. This says 7734.
Exactly. It's hell upside down. My goal was to make it say turd, but I think it still works.
But then that means
that we've been living in the year 7734.
Or maybe my machine doesn't work.
Oh, good.
But that's impossible. I'm a genius.
At this point, Shake just blasts the TV, and we see him watching Vegetable Man, which was Don Kennedy there with a vegetable costume on, laying in the produce section of a Whole Foods, I believe, or something like that. So At this point, the three Aqua Teens start communicating via sign language since the TV volume is so loud. Real quickly, I'll read what they say. Meatwad signs to Frylock saying, I think he wants us to leave the room. Frylock signs to Shake saying, as you wish, my time-traveling friend, but I long to hear more about your amazing journey. And then Shake, with middle fingers to Frylock, says, of course, I'll be happy to discuss it in the morning. It's fun to see these little ways to have the characters sign to each other. Of course, this isn't real sign language, it's just goofiness. Is this something, Dave, that you as the editor might have had to figure out, like what they were doing physically, or was this an animator thing?
Yeah, it's a combo. The way, as I'm sure you know, the way we did the animatics at William Street was pretty detailed, or like as detailed as we could get. We really wanted to give a good, pathway for the animation to follow. So yeah, we would, like, you'll see actually in the little animatic I'll send you that, like, Shake waves his arms around. Like you'll see some of the animation kind of roughed in there from Premiere or whatever I think we were Final Cut at the time, maybe. But yeah, so you work it out a little bit, but then definitely the animation expands upon it. And I looks like I used a lot of, I liked Frylock with the braces showing, so I used a lot of stills of him with the braces, but I don't think that made it through to the final.
Sure, yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that when you send that file over. I'm pretty sure we see his braces in this moment when he's doing his signing. He's, like, really happy.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
We cut to some time later, and Frylock, adorned with his hazmat suit, first seen in the Boston episode, is scanning Shake for carbon-dated material. He finds none and is skeptical that Shake actually went to the future. Shake goads Frylock into going for himself. And any listeners out there, keep an ear out for some familiar music. You might recognize it from Space Kataz.
That tears it. Turn it on.
Shall I set it to boob?
No. One more. Light it up to 8009.
Where did he go?
Probably Carl's, just like I did.
Just like Shake did. Well, Frylock's in the time machine. Let's hop back in our time machine, Dave. Let's head to the 2000s and see what was happening. You're working for Nickelodeon in the early 2000s, or I guess Viacom. I don't know what the structure of that would be. Tell me about those early 2000s of what you could remember of working at Nickelodeon before Adult Swim.
Yeah, that was a quick stint, and it was Nicktoons when Nicktoons first came about. So it's like a spin-off network or digital network of Nickelodeon where they basically put library shows. We ran a lot of SpongeBob and we ran a lot of Invader Zim and things like that. But I think I was only there for a year. Okay. MTV Animation had shut down, and it was sort of a natural, look inside of Viacom for another place to go. And that was available. That was just starting up. So I cut a lot of the promos, and we were making short films at the time. But it was a wild year. Just getting pre-prepared for the network to launch. Got to sit in on a lot of voice sessions with SpongeBob creator, and I don't know, it was fun. Nickelodeon didn't really suit me, but it was a good, since MTV folded, it was right down the street.
It's a job.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to point out to listeners, you were working at MTV Animation, which was much more, adult oriented, or at least more interesting to your taste than a Nicktoons, which was just more children's programming. Despite how great some of those shows like SpongeBob or Invader Zim might have been, it still wasn't what you got into the game for, essentially.
Yeah, and I don't know if you might cut this later if you don't want to be negative, but the vibe at Viacom was a little bit grosser than MTV as a whole. MTV Animation was a separate department, and animators in general are just little weirdos, and they have their own ways of being, and there's a lot more camaraderie. There was a little bit of a cutthroat, even at some place like Nickelodeon. There was a little bit of a vibe to it that I was just kind of grossed out by. You can definitely cut this, but
no, I'm gonna keep that because
that was definitely part of why I didn't totally love it there.
Yeah, totally understandable. But your knight in shining armor, Mr. Matt Harrigan, as I understand it, your old coworker, gives you a call, and he is about to work on a new season of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And I should say, for any listeners, you might remember Matt Harrigan as Major Shake in the episode Bad Replicant from season 1 of Aqua Teen. That was kind of how you got into it, working on Space Ghost in California, strangely enough.
Yeah.
So were you a Space Ghost fan when you got that call?
I didn't know about it. I have to totally admit I did not know about it. But as soon as I did my research, I was like, oh, get me over there, you know? Weirdly, it was not on my radar. I was caught up in the Viacom of it all, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
There's no good excuse.
I mean, it's important to note, though, like, maybe you didn't have a cable package that had Cartoon Network to see Space Ghost, you know?
I probably did, but I would have never gone there. You know what I mean? I was much more adult oriented, and then wasn't aware of the Adult Swim thing, which is a drag in hindsight. I wish I could say I was cutting edge.
Well, you've more than made up for that in your time with the network at this point. We have a listener question for you from supporter of the show, Tyler Gaines, who noticed your editing credits on both Space Ghost and your credits on Off the Air. He's curious about your longevity at the network. What first attracted you to Adult Swim, and what has kept you engaged creatively to stay there for so long?
It is a long time. So what attracted me was seeing Space, finally Matt being like, hey, I'm doing this weird thing, check it out, and checking out and being like, oh, this is the stuff that, I would have expected MTV Animation to continue doing. It was like where I wanted to be, what spoke to me when I was a kid, and what I wanted to work on. So from the beginning, it was Space Ghost. Working on that first season was like a total revelation to me as an editor, just because the work was so different. It's directing inside the edit. It's completely different than Deathmatch or Beavis or any of that. So, although Beavis, animatic editing is similar, but the Deathmatch editing was very sort of like limited in a way.
Sure.
It's that freedom. It's what they wanted to explore. It's like the humor that they were developing, basically, felt like, it felt like just great. And just immediately I was like, this is my jam. This is my place. We were doing it out of California, and then I moved back to Brooklyn for a little while. But meanwhile, I would be coming down to Atlanta for like a month at a time to either work on Perfect Hair. I forget what was starting at the time, but they were like, come on down. And I was like, all right, gotta come down. And then what's kept me there is more of the same. It's been a lucky run, and I keep looking for the place that is coming up to sort of challenge Adult Swim, and I just don't see it. I mean, I'm sorry to say, like, it should be out there. People have kind of talked about it. Like, lots of old Adult Swim people talk about it all the time. Like, where's the mojo now? And I don't know. Do you see it? Is there a new?
I'm not seeing it, Dave.
I want it. I want it for the world. And we are diminishing. Whatever. Again, you may not want to include this stuff, but we're in the contraction phase of this business as a whole, and probably this brand. But the spirit of the place is something that's eternal. So it's going to come up somewhere.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what's kept me there for so long. It's been great.
In 2007, you worked on a pilot called Low Country, which is like a reality show that basically follows around George Lowe, of course, voice of Space Ghost, and he makes tons of appearances on Aqua Teen as himself. A supporter of the show, UK No Tamashi, wants you to tell us about what working on Low Country was like.
That was more of a Harrigan project. He followed George around for months, probably. And to all different kinds of things, from physical therapy to like his art gallery showing at the High Museum. So Matt kind of just followed George, and then we worked together to craft it into an 11-minute something, which then had like 2 other lives that kind of became Earth Ghost later, where we animated. We had this weird Korean company animate it. But yeah, so putting it together was fun for me because it was kind of a live action, which I hadn't done a ton of. The music was fun. You know, editing the music is kind of a thing I love to do, and we put a lot in that. And it was just George was a super strange guy. It was fun to have a little peek into his life.
George Lowe, Space Ghost Pickups 51204. Greetings. Greetings, friends. I don't know, I think I sound pretty good. Don't I sound pretty good? Excuse me. Suckers. Suckers. We got it? Thank you. We got a better chance of seeing God at the Surf and Turf restaurant.
I noticed that there's like an orange filter on that entire thing.
Is that the sepia? There's like 20 versions of that thing, so I don't even know. Yeah, it was a thing we used to do, like make versions of things. But yeah, I think there's a sepia tone on one. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why. That's kind of no reason.
Curious.
Make it look like the Civil War.
Yeah, I had never seen that before until I was asked this question. So I watched it and it was very fun. I'll put a link to that in the description to this podcast episode if anybody wants to watch it. It's on YouTube. As far as I understand, it aired online. It didn't actually air on television, although you mentioned Earth Ghost, which was like that audio, but then you guys did like Space Ghost animation over it. So it was like about, just really fun and a really fun little piece of Adult Swim history. Obviously, Dave, we could talk forever about things that you did in the 2000s. I think we should jump back to the episode here. Keying in 8009 into the time machine appears to have brought Frylock to an alien dimension because everything he previously described seems true. He's on an alien terrain and is chased back to the time machine by unfriendly giant roach monsters grumbling about meat. Frylock hops in the machine and goes back to the Aqua Teen's house. While he's doing that, let's just hop back in this time machine, Dave. Let's head to the 2010s. Tell me about how Off the Air started.
It comes from sort of what we've been talking about. The growing up on MTV, Liquid Television, Cartoon Sushi, even working on that. It was just sort of also the internet sort of coming of age. I was kind of just like, look at all this stuff that's over here, but not over here for television. You know, so it was like this moment where I was just wanted to take some of this stuff from the internet and throw it on television and see what happened. Now that might not even seem like a distinction or important, but it felt like there was a line. And even though Cartoon Sushi did a bit of this, and I worked on a weird show called Downloaded at MTV, where it was early kind of Homestar Runner stuff, and then we aired on television. But yeah, so it's first of all, I grew up also making mixtapes, so it's kind of a mixtape. It's a video mixtape, basically. And then it's just kind of a place to explore things that maybe don't have a narrative, don't make sense as a longer form, or I don't know, all the weirder stuff. All moshed together. It just felt a great thing.
I do want to point out, you kind of touched on this, that especially around this time, like 2011, there very much was that distinction between internet and television. Like the two occasionally crossed, but it wasn't as common as you might see today. Here in 2026 now, of course, Off the Air, you guys just put out some new ones not that long ago, right? I mean, in 2026, 15 years later, like, can you kind of talk about how the landscape for this kind of stuff is different now, especially with the rise of things like TikTok and Instagram? Like, how do you keep it fresh, I guess?
It's harder to keep fresh, and it means much, like even the name of the show, I don't think means anything to anyone anymore. You know, what is the air? What is off of it mean?
I watch it on Max. Like, what do you mean off the air?
Yeah, so the serendipity of like catching it late night is a thing that's gone. So in that way, it's not the same show. We've kind of handed it over to curators now. So you're getting their take on, what's important to them and what theme they want to talk about. I think in general, there's the weird has kind of drained out of television a little bit. So it still, I think, has a role. But as far as being the strangest thing you've ever seen, like that's just never gonna be the case anymore. You get more in your daily feed than I can ever scrounge up for you. So yeah, it's different. I'm happy it's still going. I like that it's kind of evolving through the curators, but yeah, it certainly doesn't have the same sort of meaning as when it started, I think.
I feel like maybe it's almost flipping a little bit to where in 2011 it was like, hey, we have all these little shorts that don't really have a home. Let's kind of stitch them together, to where now maybe the strength of something like this is that it is longer, and that maybe there's more of like a narrative than you'll get from like a TikTok video or something like that.
Yeah, it's true. It is like, when you get on a good like Instagram run and you're just like, oh, it's feeding me all my favorite stuff just right. Like an ideal off the air is kind of an 11-minute good run of the internet, but I do think I have always thought that all the pieces add up to a bigger whole because of the theme, because you're getting insight into the curator, their take on the world through these clips they choose to show to you. Yeah, there is something a little extra to it. That's funny. That's interesting. Maybe we could curate TikTok.
It's just the show is just you scrolling through Instagram and showing the funny ones to the video.
I mean, it kind of is. Although, so also commissions. We do create more original work now, so that is a difference. And we use that to try to like let artists. Part of it is let them on to Adult Swim, artists who they're just doing something visual or something crazy that we can't fit into another category, kind of.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to point out about Off the Air, which I found kind of funny in so much that it relates to Aqua Teen, is that when Aqua Teen first debuted, it was in an unfinished state in December of 2000. They had to air it for like accounting or tax reasons or something boring like that. It was purposely shown with zero promotion at like a horrible time slot because the idea was for people to really not see it. While Off the Air, you guys intentionally aired it with zero promotion at an awkward time slot. Where did that idea come from to do it like that?
I think the nature of the show is not, and maybe my nature is a little bit not front and center, like a secret, like Adult Swim felt like a secret for a little while when, especially probably before I was here, when it would literally just sort of through the 90s pop up late night on Cartoon. So like little Easter eggs on television is a fun thing. We had also started infomercials, I think, around the same time. So that was a similar sort of late night false advertising concept, just like, what is this? They go off the air? How weird. I'll check that out. Or accidental. I mean, most people just wake up to the show, to be totally honest. Yeah. So it was in the air. It was kind of like, Off the Air was in the air.
Yeah, this is something I've kind of been thinking about in terms of like live television and just tuning into something that you don't know what it is. I'll buy DVDs and then like rip them into my computer, and I have my own server set up so I can watch them whenever. And I recently downloaded an app that can take these and I can make my own like programming blocks out of my own content on my computer. And so I find myself now more and more just like, oh, what's on the Adult Swim channel that I made, or what's on like the whatever channel. And it's weird because I can just watch these files on my computer from the beginning, but it's kind of more fun just to like hop into something and see what's happening.
I think it's way more fun. I think we're missing something.
We are.
I think even the act of clicking is you take a weird ownership in it. Like, especially for something like Off the Air, where when we started, it was the theme would reveal itself to you. Whereas if you click on holes or whatever, you kind of are like, oh, I want to see holes. Yeah. And you've already got a mindset going into it, where I think serendipity is kind of missing.
Yeah.
Nuance and serendipity are gone.
They're gone from this world.
Shame might be on the way out, too.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Let's go political. Come on. I can sense you really want to go political. All right. Back to Time Machine.
Back in the house, rather than admitting the horrors that Frylock saw, he plays it cool.
Stay away from me. Don't touch me. Leave me alone.
Stop crying like a child now. You're back home.
Oh, God.
In your wuss cave.
How were them big-ass cockroaches? Was them smart like me?
Oh, yes, they were exactly as I had said. We exchanged much knowledge, and they made me their leader.
So Shake suggests that he was the cockroach leader and decides to one-up Frylock by going back to 8008, and then he instantly comes back with some familiar items.
Well, go on.
Well, stop talking so I can get in there.
Do it then.
I'll go. Well, cockroachmen are fine. I'm the ruler again. We had a special election. I didn't want to do it, but they insisted. And then on top of it, I was given this lamp and these sweatpants.
Well, that looks like that authentic G-Man Super Bowl 2008 Super Champion Super Fan lamp that Carl owns.
Well, it is not.
And them look like Carl's sweatpants.
Well, they're not.
Well, yeah, they is.
The cockroach men like to work out. Is that a crime? You want to go kill them now because they like to work out?
No, I guess not.
Like we've been saying, Frylock and Shake end up in this game of chicken over who the cockroaches actually respect, and this causes Frylock to hop back into the 8009 keyed time machine. So let's hop back in our time machine, Dave, to a few weeks ago. I get home from work, and my wife, Hannah, who normally doesn't really watch cartoons, she's watching a new Adult Swim show called Ha Ha You Clowns, and she's like, you gotta see this. And I'm like, all right, I'll sit down and watch it. She proceeded to show me every episode of the show in one sitting.
Really?
And we loved it. We've gone on to show our friends, like, you gotta see this great show. And she's never done this, but she specifically wanted me to tell you that she loves Ha Ha You Clowns.
That is excellent. That is great to hear.
You're an executive producer on the show, and it started as an Adult Swim Small, which is like a program that you run, kind of linking into the off-the-air theme of like finding these shorter things. Supporter of the show, UK No Tamashi, wants to know how you came across Joe Kappa and how those shorts came to be.
I'm glad you asked. So I did a little bit of work. Do you know Meow Wolf at all?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay. I did a little bit of work for them a while back, and a woman named Allison, who I worked with there, shared Joe Kappa's work. I think they were opening the Denver. Anyway, it was through this woman, Allison, from Meow Wolf, and I owe her a great, deep gratitude, because I was immediately like, oh, this guy has all the things, you know? He does his own voices. He's got such a unique sensibility. It's just like the artwork stands out in a good way that leans adult and that just like is ugly, but acceptable ugly. You know, it just felt like right in line with so much that we did. So yeah, we kind of signed him up for an off the air. I think he did an off the air first. Because he had those, you know, the paper mache heads too.
Yeah, I've seen those, yeah.
He's done some of that stuff for off the air, and then he also did the smalls for smalls. But yeah, so it was through this woman, Meow Wolf, Allison, and thank you, Allison, again.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah, everybody thanks you. I feel like it's a very lucky show. I feel lucky to like have caught Joe at like an early part of his career, because I think he's gonna be a force. Yeah, he's great. It comes from a different place. You know, it's like a different sensibility.
Well, as I understand it, he was working in like advertising or something beforehand.
Yeah, I think my sense is I think he did some sort of graphics work in advertising in Denver and Oklahoma, but then just was like, I'm gonna try this other thing, and really set out with Ghost Dogs and Ha and all his paper mache stuff, and he's really killing it. Yeah.
But yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, but yeah, I think if I have children, I'm leaning towards circumcising. What about you guys? Duncan, what's wrong? I'm just so happy. I just love you guys so much. And we love you, Duncan. I'm sorry I've been so hard on you guys during band practice. No, I should have been making band practice a priority, not roast beef melts. Oh, this hot tub's got me in the feels.
What was it like developing the show from 2 or 3 minute shorts to full 11-minute episodes?
Look, he made it easy. He's great. Yeah, And that's a little bit more development's job. We worked with Cam mostly, but there was a lot of back and forth on like what to carry through from the shorts and what to leave behind, or how does it grow? How do the characters grow? There was a lot of conversation, but it was all like good and fun and not that hard. And Joe really had a very clear sense, I think.
Well, I have a question about that because I had never seen the shorts until yesterday. I went through and watched them with my wife and my friends. And in the shorts, I noticed there was like a bit more of that supernatural element about their mom. But that wasn't really seen in the full series. Was that something that you guys pushed for, or was that just something that happened on Joe's end?
Joe, I think that's Joe kind of like knowing what to hold back a little bit. Like my temptation would have been to like continue to explore that more. But I think he was right to sort of hold it back, let it still like float out there because it is an underlying tension. But I think he didn't want to trap himself. I'm putting words in his mouth, but my sense is he didn't want to trap himself and like I have to like one up myself every time on like how does mom show up? What's the history? Like he kind of just was like, if this is gonna be a show, let's deal with these characters. Let's deal with this situation. They are a family in trauma. Like that's all still true, but like the definite like objects moving in the house kind of stuff. I think he was smart to skirt around. I would have been tempted to go right for it. I always loved that about the shorts. They became a little formulaic in the shorts, but so I think maybe that was part of what he was reacting against too. Just like we can't just keep hitting the same note, but whatever. I'm happy that he backed off a little bit. He's a smart man.
Yeah, I mean, I come from loving shows. Obviously, I love Aqua Teen. It's my favorite show. But I also love like King of the Hill and these more grounded shows. So I really appreciate Haha You Clowns for that specifically. Just being... I didn't... Again, when I saw those visuals, I was like, oh, is this going to have a bunch of gore or something? Like the way it was drawn was so abrasive. But it's not. It's like it's so soft around the edges.
It's
really
soft. Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah. Yeah, there's a grotesqueness about it, but then you quickly kind of come to the other side and you're like, oh, these are my boys, and like, oh, how sweet. And but there is that tension too, and I think the artwork hints at that on its face, that like whatever, I believe it's resonating partially because we're all in a little bit of trauma, no matter what, and like it's almost like post-pandemic, but it just feels like a tense time. So like to have a show that has this, the red eyes come on quickly and like easily, like that's kind of everybody. So I don't know.
When I watch it, I'm like, I wish I was like their fourth brother or something. I wish I could just hang out in that family.
That cozy family in the great basement. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but remember to your Adult Swim podcast episode you were on. This was years ago. This is before Haha You Clowns. And I think it was you in that who said... At that time in the late 2010s, everything was so like edgy to an extent. And you said something to the effect of like, the way to rebel against that is to go like sincere and soft. And it's funny to see now, Haha You Clowns did exactly what you predicted.
Yeah, well, I think that was like, there was like slow TV kind of coming on. And there were, I'm not sure if Joe Pera was part of the scene yet at that point.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, there was a sense where it's like, I don't know, when the world turns cruel, you want to sort of react. I don't know. Yeah. And how long can you run a thing? It's the nature of comedy, Right. Just sort of like, let's see what's next.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Haha You Clowns. It's a great show. I know I do this Aqua Teen podcast, but I'm not like a huge Adult Swim guy. I kind of stopped watching around like 2011 maybe. So I don't keep up with all the shows. So that... This is easily my favorite Adult Swim show in the last 15 years. Like, I did not expect to love it as much as I do. So excited for those 2 new seasons I heard are coming out.
Yeah. We're all excited too. It will bring you back into the fold. We're going to need you more than ever.
I'll be there. So back to Time Machine here. Frylock is gone, and we immediately cut to Shake talking about his plans to take over Frylock's room. Meatwad questions if Shake actually saw the cockroaches, and Shake sips on some grape soda. From there, we cut to Frylock and see Shake's grape soda has ruined the time machine. A pantsless Carl is inside of the time machine, and Frylock runs back in with Carl, and they get locked in there together as the cockroach monsters surround the time machine.
What is that? What is that sound?
Oh, hell. They're gonna rip open this planet ears if we don't do something, Carl!
Oh, press the friggin' button! Go back to Earth, dummy!
It doesn't work like that. It diffuses the infusion of matter into a liquid...
And it releases my bowels into my boxer shorts, so please, press the friggin' button and let's leave!
The button's outside.
Oh, good call. Good call. Well, at least we got an iPod, Doc!
You see that rock over there, Carl? Get it and bash their skulls in.
Yeah, and then I will lure them over there.
Good idea, Carl.
Good luck, dummy!
That is Carl hightailing it out of there using Frylock as a distraction for the cockroach monsters. So Carl is safe, presumably, at the Aqua Teen's house. We actually don't see him for the rest of the episode. So Frylock is there. He's stuck. All he can do is talk to these creatures who, in typical Aqua Teen fashion, are pretty confused by a lot of what's happening. They don't really even seem to know where they are, where they come from, because it's revealed that, indeed, Frylock is at Carl's house still. It's just a different side of the living room, and there is some sort of, like, set. That's what we've been seeing. He wasn't actually on another planet. He was in Carl's living room on a set. Doesn't make sense because, you know, from Frylock's perspective, he would have seen he was in Carl's house, so this is just so silly, ridiculous. This is all a construction inside of Carl's house, but again, the monsters don't seem to understand that.
Oh, stay away from me! Don't touch me! Leave me alone! Stay away!
Put down the rock. Put down the rock. It's all cool here.
Huh. This rock is really light.
Because we're in space. And, it's lighter out.
Hey, wait a minute. This is a speaker.
Oh, the space wind must be over. Thank God.
But this is Earth, man. The year 8009.
Yeah, well, you know, Earth is in space. Meat!
Wait a minute. What the hell's going on here?
Dude, he's not buying this. Okay, bear with me here. We are from the year 8009. We found your machine in a cyberfill at the turn of the octomillennium. Octomillennium is a good word, isn't it? But in order for us to find it, you will have to decide not to patent it and throw it away. So we came to the present in your machine to make sure that happens.
Well, I probably will throw it away, because the machine doesn't work.
It doesn't?
It doesn't go back or forward in time.
Oh, shoot.
So the idea seems to be like the roaches use the time machine to come to this time to stop Frylock from patenting the time machine. Maybe a little reminiscent to me of the supercomputer episode in season 2. We get some kind of back and forth for quite a while in this scene between Frylock and the roach monsters. After that, we cut to the roach monsters going up to the Aqua Teen's attic. Of note here, attic-dwelling monster Willie Nelson from Season 2's The Shaving seems to no longer live there because there are no onion monsters or dead bodies. The roaches declare it is Earth 8009 and that they are now home. We cut outside to see the Aqua Teens talking with an exterminator played by Adult Swim sound man Sean Coleman. Sean previously voiced Paul in Season 5's Couple Skate, so we've talked about him on the podcast before. The roaches destroy the house while the exterminator calls in a missile strike.
They're how big?
They're huge.
Yeah, they're like 9-10 feet, give or take.
Just don't get trapped into a conversation with him.
Oh, they talk.
Oh, God.
A lot.
They got mouths. They make noises. Like words.
Can I ask how much this little comedy act costs?
Look! Hey, I found a stove. There's like 3 chairs in here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and paint the target over. Do you have any relatives in the area? Someone you could stay with for a couple of months?
This is my cousin. By marriage.
And that is the end of the episode. Meatwad's cousin by marriage is Boxy Brown. So, Dave, what I wanted to ask you about this episode is that it seems like a tough one to be thrown into as, like, your first Aqua Teen episode. Now, obviously, you've been editing at William Street for a while at this point, but there's like a real circular nature to this one. I see this as being hard to get in a way that's entertaining and flows and makes sense because of the characters like leaving and coming so much. Do you remember anything about that?
I don't. It didn't stand out because I had nothing to compare it to for this show. So, no, I just took it on its face, and I do think rewatching recently, it is a little confused. Like, you definitely have to make sure that people get that moment where Frylock's sort of lying about how he felt, like, but I think, it's like the read selection was there, like, it's so much about the voices that, I don't know, it flowed pretty naturally from my memory. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it as a complex show, but I guess it does jumps around in time.
There it is. I mean,
Yeah.
again, to like Hands on a Hamburger, where we have all the characters, they're all kind of in the same space for the whole episode,
very
too.
literally,
In that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes straight through in time,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. But I don't remember it feeling tricky or reworking it a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, those guys know what they want by this point. They were the real professionals.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to discredit the episode itself or anything like that, because like watching it, it totally makes sense. It's totally fun. I'm just thinking, like, when I cut these clips, I'm very much looking, first of all, for like scene changes, like obvious ways to be able to pull clips and like distill the scenes down. And this is one of those episodes where it's just like, oh man, it's just like long stretches of dialogue, but then kind of like quick action sequences, like with the cockroach monsters. I just could have seen it being a tough time, but again, you'd been at Adult Swim for some time at that point, so it wasn't your first rodeo with Matt and Dave.
Yeah. I guess I got them enough, and and I really think they made it easy. I mean, those guys know what they want. They're great.
When I was watching this one, I thought to a quote from Dave Willis from one of the commentary tracks, and I couldn't track that down for this podcast, but he says something to the effect of, "You'll know we've run out of ideas when we do an episode with a time machine," which I thought was funny.
That is funny.
It's important to note here that the time machine doesn't actually work. Like in true Aqua Teen fashion, they're playing with these TV tropes in an interesting way to where it's like, it just teleports you next door. And then when you think that it did bring Frylock to the future, to another planet, it's still just next door, but there's like a whole set up for some reason.
Yeah. And they did Brood. I mean, Brood Witch is almost as much a time machine. That was early, right?
Yeah.
We're already jumping around. Like, I think they could still be making episodes, and probably should be.
Yeah. Can I ask, in 2022, Aqua Teen had the Aquadonk side pieces. I didn't see you credited there, but were you involved with that, like with the Smalls program?
I was not. I don't think so, no.
Gotcha.
No.
Yeah. Well, Dave Hughes, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Is there anything else, like any final thoughts you had about this episode that you wanted to share?
No, it was great. Great experience to get to work on these shows and at this network, and I'm lucky for it. And I did want to say, like, thank you. I feel like there are a lot of Adult Swim podcasts that have floated around over the years, so thanks for going to the actual people and getting like kind of like the real record, because there's a lot of just kind of people talking, and I appreciate appreciate you reaching out. It's special, and it's nice to feel like you're really getting it from the source. So,
oh, thanks. I appreciate. Yeah, I mean, as a fan, that is a very much a frustration to where it's like so many people love this show and so many of these Adult Swim shows, and there's like very little information about them. So that's why I was like, I read a quote of you saying that you always thought that something like Off the Air should exist, but you just didn't think that you would be the one to do it. And that's how I feel about this podcast, where it's like, why am I the one?
Cool. No, it's great. It's great. Because like people step in to fill the void, you know what I mean? And they, whatever, not to diss people, but like, and fandom is appreciated, but I hear just so many things that are not true. So it's really nice that you reach out to the actual folks who made the shows.
I'm so appreciative to you guys who, respond and are excited to be involved in something.
Yeah,
like
it's a
this.
special place. I think everybody's kind of, wants it to live on, at least in memory. If not really.
Is there anything that you're working on that you think listeners should know about, that you want to plug?
I mean, new Smalls every week. Please check them out. Like, the views matter and your opinions matter. Like, we're still trying to find these kind of creators that you've, responded to over the years. So yeah, Smalls check out Smalls. Haha. Obviously, I love common side effects. I love smiling friends. I feel like we're in a good place, but who knows what's next? Yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just realizing now Common Side Effects has Mike Judge's involvement. So in a way, you're kind of reconnecting with with his work.
Although I don't have anything to do with Common Side Effects. But,
sure, yeah. But still. Dave, where can people find you?
Cheese Papa, CHZPPA at Instagram.
All right, I'll put a link to everything mentioned here in the description of this podcast episode. Dave Hughes, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's nice talking to you.
All right, so Dave came through. He sent me the rough cut to Time Machine, and he really was spot on when he said not much changes. I mean, if anything, the dialogue drifted apart the tiniest bit sometimes, but otherwise, like, there was no new dialogue there. The one thing I did notice sound-wise was that the rough cut is not censored.
I'm scared, okay?
Look, it's all right. You are a pussy.
I am not a pussy.
Yes, that's exactly what you are.
So that was fun. Otherwise, visually, of course, being a rough cut of Aqua Teen. And I should say, head to dancingisforbidden.com. I will put up a post over there with screenshots from this so you could see what I'm talking about. In general, it's not that exciting to watch because it is a rough cut. If you've ever seen an Aqua Teen rough cut, there's not much there. But the big difference, like Dave did mention, is the time machine. Now, we see two different time machines in this rough cut. Again, pictures up at dancingisforbidden.com. One is a hodgepodge porta potty setup, not too dissimilar to what we see in the final episode. Of note is the control pad, where the year is keyed in, is a Game Boy Advance SP, which I got a kick out of seeing. I had a Game Boy Advance SP as a kid, so that brought back some memories. Specifically, a Famicom-themed Game Boy Advance SP. So it's white with, like, red buttons. It looks pretty slick. Otherwise, as a placeholder, they use the time machine from Season 4's Party All the Time. Remember, Frylock is making a time machine in that one to try and go back before he has cancer. And I really want to shout out supporter of the show, Ian, for telling me where that was from. I was racking my brain trying to figure out where I saw this time machine before. And Ian had me covered here over on the Dancing is Forbidden Discord server. So thank you, Ian, and thank you, supporter UK no Tamashi, who I'm sure was typing up the answer, but Ian beat you to it. So we see that, it's not surprising that they would use previous assets from the show when doing a rough cut like this. And I guess, that makes this not the first time we see a time machine in Aqua Teen, because, there was one in Party All the Time, although, again, neither of them work. So there's always that. Another thing I noticed, we do see more of Frylock's braces in the rough cut. Like Dave said, he likes Frylock's braces, as do I. It's fun to see them, so we get a little bit more there in the rough cut, which, again, is not fully animated. It's just kind of like moving pictures. And the last thing that I noticed that was worth sharing with you was that visually, when the roach monsters go to the attic, it's the attic as seen in The Shaving. So there's dead bodies there still and everything. Again, they're just the editors are pulling from previous episodes to kind of put these rough cuts together that the animators then go and animate off of, basically like a storyboard. So again, dancingisforbidden.com if you want to see any screenshots from this that I'll share over there. I don't think it's okay for me to share the whole video. That's why I'm not trying to just keep this for myself. I would love to get this out there, but I don't know if that's the best idea right now. So thank you, Dave, for sending those. I do want to thank Dave Willis for getting me in contact with Dave Hughes. I figure, hey, I need to get in contact with a Dave. Let me ask another Dave. They all know each other, I'm sure. And I was right, because Dave hooked me up with Dave, and then we had Dave on the podcast. So thank you, Dave Hughes, for taking time out of your day to talk to us here. And like Dave said, check out the Adult Swim Smalls, okay? I'll admit it, I haven't really been watching those, but I started now since talking to Dave. They're very much worth your time, and this is like the only way we can kind of support Adult Swim right now until whichever company buys it and we see what ends up happening. Watch the Smalls. It lets the corporate overlords know that there is interest in these things. Watch the Smalls, watch the new shows like Common Side Effects and Haha You Clowns. Again, I love Haha You Clowns. Give it a watch. And Time Machine, again, a fun episode. I like watching this one. I feel like This one is kind of like Chick Magnet, but flipped to where Frylock is the one who is kind of more lying about what's going on, but Shake lies as well. Kind of an interesting episode from Meatwad's perspective, right? Because at one point, Shake does tell Meatwad, no, like I was just at Carl's house, but then like Frylock is playing it cool, but then Frylock is clearly scared. Like, it's very strange. Also, would have loved to have known how Carl reacted after the fact. Shake did beat the shit out of him and rob him. I doubt Carl was happy about that, but we'll never really know. The last thing I want to mention, I didn't talk about this in the podcast episode, but we do get that fun scene where the roach monsters have the 8009 glasses, and then Frylock has a pair as well. I remember seeing those in the 2000s. I'm sure they still exist, these kinds of like New Year's glasses, but now that there's not, 2 zeros in between, I don't think they're as popular. I don't want to fucking like 2 on my, right eye or left eye or whatever it would be, okay? I'm not doing it. But granted, I didn't do it back in the 2000s anyways. So there it is, Time Machine. What do you say you stop listening to me talk so much? We have a voice message from listener of the show, Kylie. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Hey Ronnie, this is Kylie. I'm a huge fan of Aqua Teen, and I just wanted to share my origin story as well as some Aqua Teen headcanons that I have. So, back in 2023, I met Dana Snyder at GalaxyCon, and I was a fan of him as Gazpacho from Chowder. So he was really cool, and, I wanted to get into more of the stuff that he was in, especially Aqua Teen Hunger Force. So about a month or so ago, in late September, I sat myself down and I decided to watch Aqua Teen. I fell in love with it instantly, and yeah. So my favorite characters are Shake, Frylock, Emery, and Steve. And my favorite episodes are Universal Monster, Revenge of the Moonanites, the last one, Dusty Gazongas, and Monster. So I actually got my friends into watching Aqua Teen with me, and they really liked it. They thought it was funny. So I love making drawings and bracelets of the characters. It's just a silly hobby of mine. I got into the podcast a couple weeks ago, and it always makes me laugh. I love listening to it when I'm drawing or walking to my classes. So my headcanons are that Emery listens to Weezer. I don't know why. Meatwad is a fan of the Powerpuff Girls, and his favorite is Bubbles. And Shake and Carl hang out on Thursday nights to watch Jersey Shore together. Thank you so much.
Kylie, how big is your campus? These are not short podcast episodes. Are you... How far are you walking listening to these things? Oh my God. Are you walking from out of state or something? Listen to this podcast. For real though, thank you for listening when you're walking around campus there and drawing. Please don't feel compelled to finish the podcast episodes during those activities because you'll either pass out from walking for so long or get carpal tunnel in your wrist. But I'm glad you're listening nonetheless. I guess if that happens, you could listen in the hospital too. Why not? But as always, it's so cool to see that people are still getting into Aqua Teen. When I started this show 4 years ago, I was like, I assume everybody who's into it is into it, and that's it. But that's not the case. I'm an idiot, so that's not really a surprise that I thought that way. But to get in through Dana Snyder, specifically like his work in Chowder, which is very different from Aqua Teen, right? I mean, I don't really need to say that. Chowder is geared towards a different audience. So it's cool that you kind of followed his other roles because you liked his voice so much. I mean, I get it, right? I grew up with this voice as well. This is Dana's voice is very important to my life, or at least the history of it. But I never really followed Dana around to other things. I mean, he would pop up like in Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell or something that I was already watching. Or, of course, Squidbillies. But it's admirable the way that you followed Dana to find out the best work he's ever done, which is easily Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I mean, I should have asked Dana about that. I have to imagine he feels the same way. Aqua Teen was his stepping stone into the industry. It was his first big job in the industry, and he's still doing it. I like that you, first of all, it's cool that Emery and Steve are some of your favorite characters. They play that kind of, I don't want to say this, I hate that I'm about to say this, but that kind of like beta role in their relationships. I totally could see Emery in his bunk listening to Pinkerton while Oglethorpe listens to, Five Finger Death Punch or something like that. checks out with me. Doesn't Meatwad have a Powerpuff Girls parachute in Colon Movie Film for theaters? I mean, I only deep dived that whole movie on the Patreon. I should know that. But I could see him being into Bubbles. That jives with my understanding of Meatwad. And I say that because Meatwad is my favorite Aqua Teen character. He's my favorite cartoon character of all time. And Bubbles was my favorite Powerpuff Girl when I was a kid. So that's got to be the same, right? The last thing I'll say is I could totally see Shake and Carl watching Jersey Shore together. Probably not hate watching it. I feel like they might they might sincerely connect with those characters. I could see that being real. I kind of want to try and get Dave and Dana together now to do like a mystery science theater. Watching a Jersey Shore episode. I'll add that to the list. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you for this message. Thank you for these ideas. And thank you for listening to the show. If you'd like to send in your own voice message like Kylie did, head on over to dancingisforbidden.com. To fill you in on some of the other things I've been up to since last time we talked, as I've been saying, I'm working on a cartoon with Aqua Teen co-creator Matt Malero called Those Cats. You could find that at thosecats.org. And I wanted to be done with the first episode. These are shorts. I wanted to be done with the first episode in December. Didn't quite happen. I found it was just too difficult doing so many podcasts and also trying to work on this cartoon at the same time, because I was doing a King of the Hill podcast called Yep. My co-host in Yep, Rob Couch, and we ended that show in December. Funny story there is that we both independently were like, I don't really see myself wanting to continue doing this podcast. And he reached out to me right before I was about to tell him how I felt about it, which was so serendipitous. So we ended that show about a month ago. So now I have a lot more time because we were doing 2 episodes and then sometimes bonus episodes over there a month. So a lot more time now, so I have had time to get back to Those Cats. Nothing new to show you. I'm still working on that first episode, kind of finishing up some drawings and stuff that I need for it. I'm making this in Blender in a way that, I should tell you, Blender is 3D software, in a way that you don't typically use 3D software, which is I'm like puppeting around planes with images on them. You as the viewer won't know, it'll look like a normal 2D cartoon, but point is, I went to try Adobe Animate, which used to be called Adobe Flash, which I used about 15 years ago, just to see, hey, maybe it's more worth using this because it is a 2D cartoon. But after messing around in Animate, I decided just to stick with what we're doing. Also, Animate costs money. Blender is free, so that's kind of an easy decision. So yeah, nothing exciting to show about Those Cats, but I will have a lot more time to work on it now, which I'm very much excited for. So you'll be seeing it this year. It's coming, and excited for it. Of course, Matt and I are also doing episodes on his YouTube channel called Meat Kingdom. You could find that at meatkingdom.net. Since we last talked, we did an episode with Aqua Teen mastermind Nick Inkatanawat. Nick's been on the podcast before. I might have mentioned this Meat Kingdom to you, but if you haven't seen it, check it out. Nick, a very important person to Aqua Teen. Otherwise, our newest episode as I record this is with guitarist Ned Evett. And Ned, he plays a glass fretless guitar, which, if you don't know what that means, it's a very hard instrument to play, but somehow he plays it. Ned, he was such a fan of like Aqua Teen and all this animation. He actually is doing like a cartoon series and comic books with Joe Satriani. That's right, that Joe Satriani, who was also in an episode of Aqua Teen. So Ned was so much fun, such a great guy to get to hang out with. I had a blast recording that. Again, that is meatkingdom.net. You can watch these videos absolutely for free. Check them out. And I'm kind of burying the lead here. I forgot to mention this until now. If you're still listening, then you deserve to know this. Aqua Teen, we got some news here for once, all right? How about this? Check this shit out. We got some Aqua Teen news for once. Some good news. Now, they're not making more Aqua Teen episodes. Let me put that out there right now. No new Aqua Teen episodes, but hopefully Seth Green doesn't get mad at me. Robot Chicken is doing an Adult Swim special featuring lots of Adult Swim characters that we know and love. back to Meat Kingdom, if you watch Meat Kingdom, he mentioned that they were wanting to do that last summer when he was on Meat Kingdom. We had Seth Green on the show, and he's like, yeah, we're kind of wanting to do something with like other Adult Swim things. And they're doing it now. It's going to be, I assume, like a 22-minute special like their Discovery special was. And it's featuring some Aqua Teen characters. Now, I haven't reached out to everyone yet. I know that Matt did and I know that Dave recorded. I don't know exactly who he did. I forgot to text Dana here to see if he's done anything for it yet. I assume Dana will be on it as Master Shake. How could he not? So they're recording new lines for this. Worth mentioning, Matt and Dave did not write on this. It is the Robot Chicken guys who wrote it, but you'll hear some familiar voices. So hey, I'll take that news here in 2026. We're off to a horrible start to this year. I'll just put it out there. As a nation and as a globe, as a planet, things are not good, but at least we're going to get some familiar voices. I will tell you, hopefully it's okay I say this, that Matt told me he voiced a character from Mr. Pickles on the special, and Matt's like, I've never seen that show in my life, but they had him voice it just because of the constraints that they had. So you'll also hear Matt Malero doing a Mr. Pickles character. I've never really seen that show. I don't know what it's about, but excited to see how he did. So there it is. Something on the horizon with Aqua Teen. Looking forward to that. I mentioned before that I would like to do an episode celebrating 25 years of Aqua Teen and kind of talk about the Rabot episode a bit with Dave Willis, Matt Malero, and J. Wade Edwards. I still want to do that. I can't promise it'll happen. I am a little bit strapped for time, and I just want to see how scheduling with the guys goes. So that might not pull through. If you really want that, let me know. Like, if a bunch of people are like, I want it so bad, then I can really try and make that happen. But if it's just like, whatever, then we can just move on to the next Aqua Teen episode. So, all right, that's it for me this week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out, talking through yet another episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Remember, you could find everything Dancing is Forbidden at dancingisforbidden.com. You could reach out to me at ronnie@dancingisforbidden.com. Oh, another thing I should mention is email me your if you want help from Master Shake, if you need advice from Master Shake in your personal life. I'm still taking questions for that to do an episode with Dana in character as Master Shake here on the podcast. We haven't gotten a lot of questions here, so that's another thing. That's why you haven't seen that yet. We haven't gotten that many questions. So, still taking them. Send them my way. Ronnie@dancingisforbidden.com. If you appreciated the show, if you could tell a friend who likes Aqua Teen, I'd appreciate that. Otherwise, if you want to support with cold hard cash, you can do that as well. I won't say no to that. Head on over to dancingisforbidden.com/support. Again, links to everything in the description to this podcast episode. Supporters of the show, not only do they, allow me to continue to do this podcast and put this time into it, but they also get some things back in return. Like you heard, they get to ask questions on the show to whoever's coming on. They know ahead of time. You get access to the Dancing is Forbidden Discord server where we're hanging out, and you get the privilege of answering my questions so I know what the fuck I'm talking about on my own podcast. That's a very big honor that you can have. You get these new segments I am doing with my buddy Rob Couch, where we are doing the pop culture of the week that the Aqua Teen episode came out. And you get a backlog of an assload of bonus episodes, and I have a few planned that will be coming this year as well. So help out, become a part of the show, dancingisforbidden.com/support. I want to shout out supporter Mauricio Flores, who signed up back in June of 2024 to give you an idea of how fucking behind I am on shout-outs. Holy cow, I got to get through some more of these. But I really want to shout out Mauricio, who was a big supporter of my podcast. Yep, he signed up for a full year of support on that show before we even put an episode out, and he's hanging around the Discord. Mauricio, thank you so much. It's always great when anybody signs up regardless, but to have somebody who's that interested in what I'm up to really means a lot. So thank you, Mauricio. And also want to shout out Gooba, who signed up to support the show back in July of 2024. Gooba, you're like a little guy from Mario. I love that. And then let's do one more shout out here. We've got Tyneside 1998, who signed up back in July of 2024 and is still signed up to this very day. I'm seeing, not to give too much away about Tyneside here, but they are paying in some sort of squiggly currency. It's not the US dollar, okay? It's, I believe the word is the British pound. So we have an international listener here, an international supporter, and good day to you. Hello. Thank you for listening. Thank you for strengthening the bonds between our countries right now, because god damn it, do we fucking need it. I'm out here doing what I can so that every other person in every other country doesn't hate the United States. So all right, now these people I've mentioned, they're very honorable, okay? But nobody is as honorable as our Highlander Nick.
There can be only one!
Nick, the only thing I could think of to celebrate your return is by doing what I do best, which is rocking out. All right, man, this is...
From the news! This is the podcast episode!
Oh, God, okay. No, this isn't my song. I thought that this was my song, but it's not. Let me put on my real song. All right, get ready for it. Every pod has its tear, but Nick is the Highlander. Just like every cowboy sings a sad, sad song, Nick is back where he belongs. Oh yeah, Nick! I love you, Nick. Thank you for supporting the show and for supporting me when Bret Michaels sues my cock and balls off for playing this song on the show. Actually, I should probably end it here because I don't think Nick has that much money that I'm about to be sued for. You know, Poison was about to go on tour again, and I guess Bret Michaels wanted 6 times more pay than everyone else in the band. They couldn't reach a deal. Now Poison's not going on tour. Bret Michaels, he's looking for more money now, and I think Nick's about to give it to him. Nick, thank you for signing back up to the Highlander tier here. Nick was a big-time supporter over on my old podcast, Yep, but he came on right back to reclaim his throne here on Dancing is Forbidden. But it's not just Nick who will be paying Bret Michaels for my impending lawsuit. It's also our number one in the Hood G tier supporters, Ian, Robinson, Jason, Swimwiki, Lervinator, Jonathan, UK No Tamashi, Tyler, and J. Wade Edwards. How about that? Aqua Teen editor, producer, a founder of the show, J. Wade Edwards, supporting Dancing is Forbidden. I'd like to think that this is just Jay paying me back for those Aqua Teen DVDs I bought 20 years ago when I was a little kid. He's just sending the money back. Jay, thank you so much. I never thought somebody who made Aqua Teen, let alone who was as pivotal to it as Mr. J. Wade Edwards, would support this podcast about Aqua Teen. But here we are. Crazy times in 2026. I'll see you next month. The plan is to talk about Season 6, Episode 7's 2.5 Star Wars out of 5. What the heck is Star Wars? What's that? I'll have to figure out what this Star Wars thing is. But until then, I'll see you next month. Keep it cool. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Dancing is forbidden.